size, our American compulsion of fixing and solving and helping, we're told, is to stay apart. I'm really glad for Liz and I to have a chance to share with you the work that we've continued to get done. We all know how important home is. Home isn't, um, it's so much more now. It's where we worship and where we go to school, where our kids turn into gyms, it's offices, it's so much more. And um, with your support, SBP has kept our foot on the gas pedal, not only rebuilding homes, but taking efforts to make sure that folks, A, know how to understand and mitigate risk, and know how, and that cities and states that have such an outsized impact in the recovery process understand um, how to do it best and really reduce the time between disaster and recovery. So I just want to say thank you. Um, to be able to continue doing the work that you all expect us to do doesn't just happen in a year like this, when resources are scarce and there's tremendous uncertainty. This year looks different in so many ways, but thanks to our corporate partners, our individuals, the foundations, our SBP people like you, who have shown tremendous flexibility and generosity and commitment, we're getting amazing work done, and we do this together. And so I hope in this call, you're not only learning what we're doing, but you're feeling proud about the impact that you have. Um, like many of you, and we can go to the next slide. There it is. Uh, like many of you, the pandemic has caused us all to face a reality that really wasn't in our plan. And for the most vulnerable people in our communities, the economic and social and psychological toll can be devastating. And many of these are families we've served for years, people who are traditionally forgotten about or marginalized, intentionally or not. And the common sentiment that they share with us after we finish rebuilding their home is a feeling of gratitude, um, that we recognize that they matter and they're not forgotten. And for many of our low income clients, finding resources during the shutdown in the earlier phases was crucially important. And I want you to know that when our teams might have been limited in face to face contact with our clients, the thousands of clients we've rebuilt for and who are in our world over the years, we made up for it in phone calls, repeated and long and deep support. I'm glad to tell you that across our 10 operating sites, our client team connected with over 1,200 past and present clients to listen to them, to be present for them, to certainly bear some witness for them, but also to connect them and facilitate their access to resources like rental assistance programs, food distribution, educational support, and federal assistance applications. In the slide you see in the top right corner is a woman named Miss Jackson, who is the caretaker for both her adult disabled son and her two grandkids. They live in New Orleans, and when COVID hit, her job closed. She was a child care worker, so she didn't have employment. She didn't have income, and she shared with our team that she had deep existential fears. How is she going to simply provide food for her family? She had a home because of SBP, but how is she going to provide food? Uh, our team did an amazing job again of helping her. These are people who were remiss to ask for help. We connected her with daily meal deliveries through indeed a program that SBP started, um, the oddly named Double Entendre or Double Entree program. Um, and Double Entree was created out of a need to help struggling restaurants and the newly food insecure families of New Orleans. And so we combined the generosity of our national funders. I think our friends uh, who supported this are on the phone, with the culinary expertise and capacity of local chefs. So we created and delivered over 34,000 meals. As important, however, we preserved 18 full-time jobs for people who otherwise would have been unemployed and would have been largely in the same situation as Miss Jackson. And finally, I'm glad to tell you that SBP has distributed over 16,000 pieces of PPE, such as N95 masks, and surgical masks in areas as broad and wide as LA, New York, New Jersey, and New Orleans, thanks to our local and national partners like Farmers and Hanes and Friends of Rockaway and more. In April, our New York office also identified 6 additional hospitals, and Toyota provided life-saving face shields. So thanks to all of you for supporting this crucial work, and we're continuing it. We can go to the next slide. And trust me, you're going to get to hear from Liz. I'm getting sick of myself. You'll get her soon. So you all know this. We incorporate 5 strategic interventions to achieve the mission of reducing the time between disaster and recovery. And the first, many of you know that first intervention is build. We've rebuilt homes for 2,292 families and gotten them home after disaster. This work is essential for many reasons. You know it. Home is a basic human need, but right now, when people are told to stay home for your safety, a home that's safe means even more. It's life-saving. Some of you might not think about, however, when you see the photos of families cutting ribbons, is that this work provides a social justice result as well. It preserves home equity. For lower income homeowners and across the country for minority folks, home equity makes up a disproportionate amount of overall family net worth. And that is net worth that exists the day before disaster and immediately is decimated after disaster. That's equity that could be lost if there wasn't a group like SBP to rebuild their home. Speculators come in. Now, to be clear, it's inefficient for us to rebuild their home. We can't get to scale. It's exactly the right thing to do, and you can read the statistic. However, our upstream solutions that I'm going to talk about shortly are going to obviate the need largely for us to rebuild some homes, thus producing and preserving wealth. I want to share with you an example of family from Florida. Miss Virginia Caesar inherited her family home, and she and her husband James raised their 6 kids there. And knowing what home ownership meant, James kept their house pristine before Michael hit. And Michael they were inland. They had no reason for flood insurance, although they suffered largely wind damage. This generational home that had memory after memory of birthday and holidays and graduations and steps towards the American dream was at risk of being demoed until SBP stepped up. As you can see, we ended up, after the storm, before we did any work, the value of their house was appraised at $15,000. When we were done, it was appraised at $75,000, and we expect as the community redevelops, it will increase even more. And so this is equity that their family can build upon and leverage for generations to come. Thank you for helping the Caesar family and other families across the country. And I'm so proud to say that our family, or that SBP, I guess our family, has continued its work rebuilding homes throughout the shutdown. We have intentionally accelerated the cases for our most vulnerable clients. We've leaned heavily on subcontractors, and when safe, we've brought in our AmeriCorps members, and we're starting to work with volunteers. And I'm so glad to tell you that we're still on pace to meet our goal of rebuilding homes for 457 families this year. We can go to the next slide, and you finally get Liz.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you checking in to learn about the progress that we've made so far this year. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about our build intervention, and I want to start with some exciting news. I want to give a shout out to our Baton Rouge operating site. As many of you know, in 2016, this community was really devastated by a severe rainstorm, not even a named storm, but a severe rainstorm that caused a lot of flooding across central and southwest Louisiana. Our team was able to respond quickly. and support families over the long term. Even though this was a very low attention flood, did not get a lot of coverage in the media, and was very quickly forgotten. So fast forward 4 years, long after a lot of the attention has waned, and our team completed the job in Baton Rouge. And what I want to highlight is a picture of Miss Sheena, who you can see on this slide, who's cutting the ribbon on her home that we rebuilt. She lived there with her children, and she had 4 feet of water in her house as a result of this rainstorm. Um, she talks about how after this happened, she spent a lot of time praying. She's a woman of deep faith. And thankfully, because of all of you SB people, um, her wish came true and she was able to move back home. So I just again want to say thank you to the Baton Rouge team and thanks to everybody who supported our efforts there. Um, as some of you know, we don't just repair homes for homeowners. We also create affordable rental and home ownership opportunities. And I wanted to talk a little bit about something really exciting that happened. When the pandemic started in March, I remember having a conversation with one of my colleagues saying, well, I guess our home ownership program is going to be on hold until this thing passes, assuming that people would not be in a position to buy. The good news is I was completely wrong. Since March, we've sold 6 homes to first-time home buyers, and we have another 4 under contract.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and you can see up in the top right corner a picture of Miss Latoya. She is one of the homeowners that we sold a house to this year. She's a home health nurse and was just thrilled to be able to buy a home and have a safe place for her and her family. The other thing I want to highlight and talk about a little bit is our first multifamily or apartment building project. You can see an exterior shot in the bottom right corner. It's called the Residences at St. Peter. It's a 50-unit building with half of the units set aside for veterans. But what I'm really proud of is that it's also the state's first net zero building.
Say that again.
It's the state's first net zero building. It has solar panels on the roof, backup battery power, so that if the power goes out across the city, the people who live in this building still have access to power. But being net zero, what's the most exciting about it is that if residents follow our energy usage guides, which are actually really easy and don't impact quality of life at all, they can have no power bill every month. And so for people who are very, very low income, and there are quite a few families in the building that are very low income, this is the difference between being able to buy medication and not, being able to put enough healthy food on the table or not. And so we feel like this net zero building will continue to give. The other thing that's really exciting about this building is that we received an award from HUD, from Secretary of HUD, Carson. And the award recognizes this, I think, really great public-private partnership that we developed to build this building. We were very fortunate to get both a combination of tax credits and a very generous donation from Entergy, the local power company, so that we could build this building in the most resilient, energy efficient way. And so I think what this proves is that there's a way to build affordable housing that's sustainable and energy efficient, and that those things don't need to be at odds with each other. So we're looking forward to sharing this model with other affordable housing developers. We're really excited that the state's housing agency wants to dig in and understand this model that we've developed and hopefully replicate it across the state. So more to come on St. Peter and how it's going to continue to influence affordable housing across the country. I'm going to pass it back to Zach now.
I'm gonna take it. And so I'll move a little bit quicker through these next couple slides, but they're important to share. And share is the name of the next intervention at SBP that I'm going to walk through. So in the for-profit world, we understand that there's reason to keep trade secrets proprietary, but in the people-serving world, when who matters isn't in our line, but who matters is the pool of people in need, period. It's essential to share what's working. Toyota has a term from this. They call it Yokoten. If you do it well, share it. And we understand that if car company is going to help its competitors, it's certainly the right thing for us to do in the people serving world. And so through our share intervention, we train other nonprofit groups, and we invest our AmeriCorps members into them, recruit, hire, pay for AmeriCorps members, and also we invest funding. And so I'll give you, it was a big year for us in the share intervention. I'll highlight one program. I don't know if Rebecca's on the phone, but she did an amazing job of driving the success here, as did others. In North Carolina, which was hit by Hurricane Florence in 2018. So thanks to a grant from the Red Cross, they invested in SBP, and we invested in 8 other nonprofit groups in rural areas, and we got 78 families back home. We recruited, trained, and placed AmeriCorps members with these organizations, and also shared best practices. I'm so glad to say that the program was completed ahead of schedule, and to families, that was a big deal. Many of them were actually in their homes before COVID struck, and that was, as you can imagine, a big deal. Additionally, we connect dots and we try and share lots of things. So due to just a great advisor, I don't think David Ducote's on the phone, but we became aware of and poised to seize opportunities through the Payroll Protection Act. And so the finance team led by Keith and Nicole did an amazing job of positioning SBP to achieve a Payroll Protection Act award. But we also provided trainings for over 1,200 NGOs and small businesses across the country in areas where we have no footprint, but through the power of Zoom, we're able to drive impact and share our best practices. So very, very thankful for the team's impact there. And so we've talked about, we can go to the next slide, what our homes mean to us, that so many functions. It's essential, and it means safety. And we're told to go to our homes, so we better have a safe home to go to. We have to do everything we can do to protect the homes for other people across the country. And so that's where our Prepare intervention comes in, and it's designed to help homeowners understand and mitigate risk and take action now. We hold live webinars for companies and individuals and associations. Elizabeth recently created a partnership, and there may be some folks on the phone with the National Association of Manufacturers that has 14,000 members who have been doing monthly webinars from them. In July, thanks to our partners at Farmers, I'm sure some of you are on the phone, we hit a really audacious goal halfway through the year of reaching 19 million people across the country with flood risk messaging. And so I encourage all of you, let's get over 19 million. Go to this link, sbpprotects.org, and it will help you and those you love to understand and mitigate risk. Sorry, our son is coming downstairs at a somewhat inopportune time. So we can go to the next slide. And I'd love to tell you about one more thing before I pass it off to Liz and she takes us home. And this is super exciting. And so if SBP is going to really achieve our mission across the country, it's a big mandate. Reduce the time between disaster and recovery. It can't be home by home, whether it's us or someone else. It can't be just increasing the uptake of flood insurance. And it can't be just helping people navigate the resources. We need to work upstream at solutions where we can get to the greatest scale possible. And that's by working with the federal and the state governments, really to help craft the rules of the game. And we got to make sure that the recovery system works for more people. And so we have a number of training interventions, from group trainings, and this was funded by Walmart, to we'll send our team, and we've done this safely in a socially distant way after COVID, to work with federal grantees to help them understand how to access the funds and get the dollars out the door. HUD has a slow spender list that I looked at this morning, and my math is sub-mediocre. but I think I counted over $60 billion worth of funds that are on the official slow spender list. That is our target because that represents millions of Americans who aren't going to have a prompt, efficient, predictable path forward otherwise. And so this is the money that hits years after disasters when low income and socially vulnerable families have suffered for years and they continue to suffer unless the funding is spent efficiently. Our training, which is funded by Walmart, is driving incredible impact for communities. The trainees who want the best for their communities, these are government servants who we know sign up for their work because they want to help. This supports them to do the job as best as they can and seize the institutional actor advantage. And if you look above, you can see some quotes, and they make my day. If you see the top one, after working with SBP in West Virginia for 2 quarters, they got more houses done than they had in the prior 2 years. The same thing in Florida. I think we're just starting to skim the surface. And as we're working on our strategic plan moving forward, you're going to see bigger bets and greater investment in some of this surface, less sexy, but truly needed system change and scaled impact work. And with our small team, and I know some of the folks are on the horn, Reese is not, but JR and Ran and Klee, I believe, are, Marley maybe. With our small team, we have already influenced more than $19 billion worth of federal assistance across 20 communities. We're setting the rules of the game for a $30 million operation in Missouri and waiting to hear back how we can support the recovery in Florida and Puerto Rico. So, Liz, you have the ball.
Great. So this brings us to our last slide of the presentation and also to storm season. As many of you have heard, NOAA is predicting an above average storm season, and it got off to a strong start. We had 2 named storms before June 1st. I think when you couple that with the global pandemic, it's just going to be a really challenging year for disaster response and recovery. Federal funding is stretched thin. We have heard that FEMA personnel are already overwhelmed trying to support COVID in various communities. Public shelters, which are usually a safe haven, are no longer safe. And we also think that if there is a storm in a community, you know, it's really quickly going to be overshadowed by the presidential election. But it's still essential that we get homes built and families home quickly, perhaps more essential now than ever before. And as you guys know, and we've talked about today, that when we rebuild homes, we not only create a safe place for our clients to live and do the many other things that need to happen in a home, but rebuilding starts or restarts the local economy, and it fosters better outcomes in health and mental health. And so this is where you come in. You know, to the extent that you're able to give, we would very much appreciate your donations and support. Now, this year in 2020, for the first time, we've established a disaster response fund, and it's going to support our team's ability to respond quickly and efficiently. And so we hope that you'll consider it. We know that if there's a disaster that we will respond, and we also know that with your support, we'll be able to do more. So thank you. We really appreciate it. So that kind of wraps up our presentation. We have some time now if anyone would like to ask questions. I think you can chat those, and someone on our team will read those out.
And we can go long. We love being with you guys. We can go.
Yeah, y'all are welcome to unmute your line if you'd like to, or you could chat, whichever you're more comfortable with.
We do have a question about our opportunity housing. How is financing for new homeowners secured through traditional banking or with SBP?
Yeah, I'll take that one. It's a great question. So we don't carry any mortgages in-house. Instead, we we provide a list of local lenders to our buyers. But one thing we do is we can provide down payment and closing cost assistance through some of the programs that we've been able to secure funding from. And so when a buyer buys a property from SBP, they're often buying it and building equity almost instantly because they're getting some additional financial support. In other words, the market is affordable for them in ways that it wouldn't be otherwise. So thanks for the question. And any other questions or things you want to share or talk about?
Any suggestions or concerns? Well, we appreciate all of you. I think there were 70 of you on this call today, and we have another big number tomorrow. So thanks for those of you. Well, Elizabeth will wrap up. Pardon me. So thank you.
You're doing such a good job. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining. It is so important for us to communicate with you just how impactful your support is. And I hope that we do this in a consistent way and in a way that connects with what you're hoping to hear. But of course, as a group that embraces constructive discontent, we're open to suggestions and tell us what you want to hear more of. You can reach out directly to me, or you can send an email to info@sbpusa.org. Thanks for joining today. And somebody asked if we'll be sharing the recording. Allie, do we have this recorded? If not today, we'll have one recorded tomorrow and we can email that out.
Yes, we did record the presentation today and we will share it with everyone.
Great. All right. Thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and your week and be safe.
Thanks, y'all.
Everyone. Take care.